Praat is fairly easy to use, but it may take a little time getting used to it at first because it looks somewhat different from most Windows or other Macintosh software. This video tutorial is designed to introduce you to the basic layout of the program and will show you how to open a sound file and save a file to your computer. Information about actually working with sound files is covered in the next tutorial. The Praat software program is frequently updated by its authors. Although the changes are usually small, if you're using this tutorial along with a different version of Praat from the one listed here, you may find some of the functions and features looked or act slightly differently from the way they are described. If you're not working with the most recent version of Praat, may I suggest that you go to www.praat.org to upload the most recent version. When you first open the Praat program, you will see two windows, the Praat Objects window and the Praat Picture window. For this portion of the tutorial, you will not be using the Picture window, so feel free to close it now. The Objects window that you see here is like the main control panel. An object is anything that Praat has in its working memory. Examples may include a sound file that you just opened in Praat from a file that you've saved on your computer, or a sound that you've just recorded using the Praat sound recorder, or a non-sound object that you can generate while working with a sound file, such as a spectrogram or a spectrum, which we will discuss later on in this tutorial. Here's what you see in the Objects window. In order to see all the options that you have in the Objects window, you must first open a sound file. For this tutorial, we will open a file called plosives.wave. Once you've opened a sound file in Praat's working memory, you see several options from which to choose. Here's what you see in the Objects window. You have a top menu and buttons on the bottom. These features are for basic file and object management. They never change regardless of the type of object you're working with. You will also see a list of objects on the left side. This window is empty when you first start Praat and will continue to be empty until you open your first sound file. It looks like a large white box. Once you open a sound file in Praat, on the right side you will see a list of buttons, which show different buttons depending on what type of object you highlight in the list of objects that you have in your Objects window. No buttons will be showing if the list of objects is empty. Some of the options that you have from which to choose here is Sound Help, View and Edit, Play, Draw, To Intensity, Convert, Filter, and Combine. To work with a sound file in Praat, you first have to open it and read it into the Praat Objects window. You do this as follows. In the Object window, click on Open, then Read from File. A dialog box will pop up, find the desired sound file you'd like to open, and then click on it. After you've told Praat to read in a sound file, it should appear in the Praat Objects window, such as Sound XXX or whatever the name of the file may be. In this instance, plosives.wave. At times when you're working with a sound file, there may be instances in which you may cut a portion of the file or marry two files together or make any other additional changes to the file. The sound files listed in the Objects window are temporary working copies. Any changes that you make to them in Praat will not affect the file that you have saved on your computer. If you've changed a sound object and you want to make the changes permanent, you will need to save the sound object to your computer as follows. First of all, highlight the sound object by clicking on it in the Objects window. Then click on Save in the top menu bar and then choose Save As for whatever audio file format you like. If you're on a Windows system, you may want to use a WAV file. If you're on a Mac, you might want to use .aiff or AIFC. But it really doesn't matter unless you plan on using these sound files with some other type of software on your computer. Just be sure to use an audio format. For example, you cannot save a sound file as a text file or a binary file. Once you choose the file format, a dialog pop-up box will appear, which lets you specify a file name. Use a name that will remind you of what the sound file is. For example, plosives, nasals, etc., and then decide where to save the file. It might be most convenient to save the file on your desktop. If you ever have a problem while you're working with Praat, there's always the option to click on the Help file. Go to the main Praat Objects window, click on Help, and you see several options from which to choose. Praat Intro, Object Window Help, or search the Praat manual. For example, let's click on Help and Praat Intro. Here you see a window that pops up, which is an introduction to the manual. There are several topics from which to choose. Intro 1, how to get sound, record, read, and formula. Intro 2, what to do with a sound, write, or view. Intro 3, spectroanalysis, and etc. Many solutions to problems you might be having can be found in the Praat online manual. If you cannot possibly find the answer here, you can always go to www.praat.org to find additional help.